Well, first of all, hello everybody. I'm Jonathan Leather. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of United Oil and Gas, and today I'm going to be giving a presentation on the Walton Morant license offshore Jamaica, in particular on the Colibri structure and on some of the follow-on prospectivity that's been identified in the basin. Now, you know, I've realised that this is a recording, but I will be available live in the session chat during this talk. So if any questions come up as we're going through the slides, please do put them into session chat and I'll do my best to answer them then. I'm also more than happy to respond to any direct messages if you'd like to find out more about Jamaica, indeed the opportunity I'm presenting today. Before starting, I'd like to thank Paul Ryan and Miles Watson, who are colleagues of mine at United Oil and Gas, who have done most of the work on Jamaica and indeed have put together the majority of the material that I am presenting in these slides today. I'd also like to thank the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology in Jamaica, or MSET, who have been very supportive of the work that United Oil and Gas are doing in Jamaica. So the plan for the presentation today is to start with a very brief introduction to United Oil and Gas as a company and give an overview of why we like Jamaica so much, and also a brief history of our involvement in the license to date. We'll then get into more details on the acreage itself, talking about the drill-ready Colibri Prospect and also some of the other prospects that have been identified on the license as well. But it is a short presentation, so it's still very much a taster, and indeed, if you do have questions or want to find out more, please do follow up with me either through the chat, the session chat that I mentioned, or via direct messages, or indeed through Envoy, who have been commissioned to assist in United's efforts on Jamaica. I'll skip through the disclaimer and then get straight into kicking off with a quick introduction to United Oil and Gas. We are a multinational full-cycle E&P company with assets in 4 different countries. We have production in Egypt, with gas due to come on stream in Italy later this year, and we've got appraisal and low-risk exploration assets in the UK CNS. Now, in these areas, our focus is really on getting to production and generating cash flow, and using that to underpin the business and then be able to go and take positions in more frontier, high-risk opportunities where the potential rewards are also much higher. And that is where Jamaica comes into our portfolio. It is a bit different to the rest of the assets, and hopefully over the coming slides you'll see why we targeted Jamaica in particular and why we are so excited by it. So at a high level, Jamaica, it's a high impact frontier basin. United Oil and Gas hold a very large acreage position of over 22,000 square kilometres, covering much of the offshore area to the south of the island of Jamaica. Now, although I refer to it as frontier, there is a significant amount of evidence that indicates that all the elements required for a working petroleum system are present, and as well as that, we've also identified a large number of materially sized prospects and leads. And these are shown outlined on the map, you can see here. Now, 11 of these, which are the ones that are highlighted in green, were included in a recent Gaffney Klein and Associates Prospective Resources report, and the numbers given in the presentation today, which you'll see on the following slides, are taken from that. I'm just making the point that they are independent numbers, and are not just taken from our own internal workings. Of those prospects and leads, the Colibri Prospect is the one that's really been high graded. It contains over 400 million barrels. It's covered by 3D. It's drill ready. And when we look at the commercial evaluation of it, you can see that not only is it a large prospect, but it's commercially very robust as well, with a mean success case NPV, $60 oil of over $2 billion. Indeed, those NPVs are robust right down to much lower oil prices, indeed down to sub $25 oil. So it's very exciting as a standalone entity, but there's a further potential of over 2 billion barrels and more in the follow-on potential that's been identified across the basin. So it's not just Colibri, there's an awful lot more excitement to follow on should that be a success. In terms of United Oil and Gas's involvement, we entered the license in 2017 when Tullow Oil were the operator. And then last year, in August 2020, we were granted an 18-month extension to the initial exploration period, and we now hold 100% equity in operatorship. There's been over $30 million invested in the license to date, and that has included the acquisition of both 2D and 3D seismic data. Since we took over the license last year, our work has really focused on quantifying the basin-wide potential, looking to map in more detail the prospects we identified both on the 2D and the 3D data, and also adding to the body of evidence that exists showing the presence of high quality active source rocks in the area. But the ultimate goal of all the work that has been done in this area is to attract a partner to accompany United in drilling a basin opening exploration well in Jamaica. Before getting into the details, just to put Jamaica into a regional context, Caribbean has a complex tectonic history, which I'm not planning on getting into here, as I think it would take far longer than the allocated time. However, the one point I do want to make is that the Caribbean is a good place for the development of source rocks, and this is part of what first got us interested in Jamaica. Upper Cretaceous source petroleum systems are proven all around the margins of the Caribbean Sea. Indeed, we've got direct evidence in Jamaica of their presence there as well. And when you look at the tectonic reconstructions and putting back Jamaica and the Caribbean to where it was in late Cretaceous times, it becomes clear that indeed you would expect there's a lot of conditions that are conducive to the deposition of good quality source rocks. We've got tectonic activity happening that's enhancing regional organic productivity. Through the formation of some of these arcs, we've got the deep ocean circulation being restricted and enhancing the preservation of organic carbon. And what we're seeing, as I said, the evidence we see directly in Jamaica, but across this area, is that whenever accommodation space is available, high quality source rocks are being laid down. In terms of the available database covering Jamaica, there's 11 wells that have been drilled to date. So it is a truly frontier basin, particularly when we consider that only 2 of these were actually drilled in the offshore area. On the data set we now have available, it does not appear that any of those wells tested a valid structure. Yet 10 of those 11 wells still had hydrocarbon shows, which again in itself is quite encouraging. There's an extensive 2D data set across the licensed acreage and 2,250 square kilometers of 3D pre-stack time and depth migrated seismic data was acquired in 2018. So we have got a good seismic data set covering the licensed acreage. The most important thing about Jamaica, though, is that despite the small number of wells and its frontier nature, the basins are still very well calibrated. The onshore geology of Jamaica, the island of Jamaica, provides a direct window into the offshore basins. The island is on a restraining bend of a strike-slip fault and was popped up only pretty recently. So what we're seeing now exposed in outcrop there is what we would expect to find in the offshore basins in the subsurface. And the evidence from those onshore outcrops really constrains our understanding of that stratigraphy and the petroleum plays. Indeed, we get good quality clastic reservoirs with good quality carbonate reservoirs, as well as really good seal candidates and really good source rock candidates. So all the elements we would want to see present in the offshore, we've got good evidence from the onshore that they are all present there. We also see a lot of evidence for actively migrating hydrocarbons. There's a number of onshore seeps. These have been typed to the Cretaceous and indeed to some Jurassic Age source rocks. We've got 10 out of 11 wells drilled to date have hydrocarbon shows. There's also an offshore seep which was analysed and typed to a thermogenic source. And in more recent satellite seep studies have shown presence of repeated slicks and which often correspond to seabed features where we're seeing evidence of fluid movement and linkages to deeper faults connecting up to where we think where the source kitchens are. Plus, all the petroleum systems modelling work that's been done across the licensed area indicates we would expect the modelled source rocks to be mature and actually expelling oil. Moving on to some more details on the geological setting, there are 2 separate basins in Jamaica. We've got the Walton Basin in the west and the Morant Basin in the east. The 2 basins do have slightly differing basin histories. They also have some common play elements, such as the expected Upper Cretaceous source rocks, and they do have differing reservoir stories. In the Walton Basin, we're expecting carbonate plays, both in the Upper Cretaceous and in the Eocene, whereas in the Morant Basin we're expecting it to be a lot more clastic dominated. Indeed, we've got Eocene reservoirs there that are the direct equivalents of good quality fluvial deltaics that we see exposed in outcrops onshore Jamaica. Zooming in now to the Walton Basin in the west of the licensed area. This is it's covered with recently acquired pre-stack depth migrated 3D data and contains the drill-ready Colibri Prospect. Colibri is an upper Cretaceous, a syn-rift carbonate target with mean volumes in excess of 400 million barrels. Plus, still covered by the 3D data, we see a number of material follow-on targets. These are mainly in the younger Cenozoic post-rift grainstone fan type plays, with both Oriole and Streamer Tail containing mean volumes of over 200 million barrels. So again, material follow-on within covered by that 3D data set. Colibri itself, it's a large syn-rift horse block with seismic features that are consistent with a fractured karstified platform carbonates. See charge focus very clearly from the north and the south. It's very well located in terms of all the modelled charge elements, the real focus for charge. So seeing a lot of favourable elements in terms of its positioning. Sealed by overlying deep marine shales of the upper Cretaceous and lower Eocene, and again, these have a distinct seismic character that can be mapped. We also see a very prominent low velocity anomaly on the 3D seismic across Colibri that shows conformance to the structure. Now, this anomaly was tested in multiple scenarios during processing and remains present and robust. The velocities we're seeing there suggest porosities of over 20%, and these are actually in line with what we would expect from analog reservoirs and suggest there's potential here to seal a significant column. So for frontier exploration, when we look at Colibri, we believe it to be a really fantastic basin opening target. It's covered with 3D, it's a drill ready state, in excess of 400 million barrels, which the economic modelling work we've shown could have NPVs in excess of $2 billion. So clearly commercially very attractive and great as a standalone target. But not only have we got great follow-on potential on the 3D data with the likes of Oriole and Streamer Tail both containing over 200 million barrels, but there's a lot more material follow-on too if we move to the east and come across to the Morant Basin. Now this is only covered in 2D data, so when you look at the geological chance of success in the table on this slide here, this does reflect that these are leads rather than prospects. It's a different play to the Walton Basin. We've got Eocene clastics in very large tilted fault blocks. But the key thing here is, if you look at the table, materiality and potential follow-on given initial success at Colibri is clear. The Thunderball with over 600 million barrels, Moonraker with over 300 million barrels. We look at a seismic line through the Morant Basin. It shows the size of these tilted fault block structures and the fact that we are expecting Eocene clastic reservoirs here to be sealed by overlying deep marine shales of the Miocene, sourced primarily from Cretaceous type 2 source rocks. And again, just to be clear, all the basin modelling work that we've done here indicates there's more than sufficient volumes of hydrocarbons being generated to fill these structures. So overall, again, the Morant Basin on its own, billion barrel plus potential identified just in the Morant. So to summarise, Jamaica it's high impact frontier exploration. This had significant investment to date, and that has provided compelling evidence that all the elements we'd want to see for a working petroleum system are actually present there. That work has led to the high grading of the Colibri Prospect. It's a material prospect that's economically robust with over 400 million barrels and is very attractive as a standalone in its own right. But given success there's over 2 billion barrels of follow-on potential to get after across licensed acreage in both the Walton and the Morant Basin. I mean, this is an even more transformational type opportunity. It's also important to point out that we found Jamaica a really good place to work in, and I have found the MSET and the Jamaican government to be particularly supportive of the work that we've been doing there. So we're now at a stage where we are looking to attract partners to accompany United in drilling a basin opening well in Jamaica and really looking to unlock the potential that is clearly there. And to finish up, again, just to say, if you would have any questions on this, would like to find out more about Jamaica, please do follow up with me either on the session chat now or email me or contact me directly. And also making the point again that we have commissioned Envoy to assist us in this opportunity, and you can also go through contacts to Envoy. So thanks once again for all your time, and I hope to catch up with you live or later in the session chat or through direct contact. Thanks again.